In this video, we're going to be looking at something called the product rule. The product rule simply says this. When you multiply something with the same base, you add their exponents. Let's break this problem down and understand why this works. First term we have is 5x squared. That is 5 times x times x. And to that we are multiplying 6x to the fourth. That is 1, 2, 3, 4 x's. Well, with the 5 and the 6, these are just integers, and we multiply those to get 30. And now look how many x's we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And a simpler way to write that would be x to the power 6. Well, there's a quicker way to do this using something called the product rule. And the product rule says this. Take your 5 and 6, and since they're different bases, you multiply them. But since we have here x to the power 2 timesing x to the power 4, these are the same bases. And since they're multiplying the same base, you add the exponents, and 2 plus 4 gives us 6. Let's look at another one. In this problem, we have negative 4a to the third b times, put my symbol there, 3a squared b to the fifth. Again, negative 4 and 3 here are different bases, so we just multiply them to get negative 12. Now look at your a. We have a to the third here and a to the second. 3 plus 2 is 5. And with our b's, don't forget this guy has an exponent of 1. And b to the first times b to the fifth, 1 plus 5 gives us a 6. One notation to tell you about is when we write our answer, alphabetical order would be nice, and you always have your coefficient first. Okay, so what do you think? 8c squared times d to the first times 10c cubed d to the fifth. 8 times 10 is 80. C to the second times c to the third is c to the fifth. And d to the first times d to the fifth is d to the sixth. Again, this is all using the product rule, which says when you multiply the same base, you add their exponents. Okay. Negative 6a squared b times 1 half ab. Well, negative 6 times 1 half is negative 3. A to the second times a to the first is going to produce a to the third. And b to the first times b to the first is simplifying to b squared. Here's a problem where we have to do two things. We have to use the product rule for this binomial, these two terms, and we have to use the product rule here first. Then we are allowed to add them later. Let's try this out. 5 times 4 gives us 20. A to the third times a to the first gives us a to the fourth. B to the fourth times b to the second is b to the sixth. To that, we are going to try to add, what's the coefficient here? Well, that's a 1. So 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. A to the second times a to the second is a to the fourth. And b to the fifth times b to the 1 is b to the sixth. Are we allowed to add these together? If we are, they have to be like terms. How do you know if they're like terms again? They have to have the same variable parts. A to the fourth, b to the sixth for this term, a to the fourth, b to the sixth for this term. So they do have the same variable parts. So now we just combine the coefficients, and 20 plus negative 2 simplifies to 18. One last problem, a subtraction problem. Again, notice this is a CD, and this component is a c to the fourth d, and a c squared, d squared, and a c cubed. We cannot subtract these yet. So let's try to use the product rule. Negative 5 times negative 3 is 15. C to the 1 times c to the 4 becomes c to the fifth. And d to the first times d to the first is d to the second. From that, we are going to subtract. 7 times 2 is 14. C squared times c cubed is c to the fifth. And notice this term doesn't have any other d's to multiply it with, so we just keep this as d squared. Do they have the same parts? They do. They each have a c to the fifth d squared. So now we just combine them. 15 subtract 14 is 1. So this problem simplifies all the way down to c to the fifth d squared. Hope this helps with the product rule.